Willkommen and welcome back to a new lesson. Let's start with our new lesson for today. Today, we are going to talk about the word war, which comes from the verb sein. War is also a past form of the verb sein. So in case sein means is in English, war would mean was. This form is used more often in German. You already know the one with ist gewesen, right? Ist gewesen and war are almost the same meaning. However, people use war more often. For example, if you want to say, when I was a kid, you say, als ich ein Kind war. Als means when, and Kind means a kid or a child. Als ich ein Kind war, when I was a child, or when I was a kid. Another sentence like, I was tired. Ich war müde. Ich war müde. Or this book was good. Das Buch war gut. Das Buch war gut. You can use, of course, both of those forms, ist gewesen or war. But war, as I said, comes more often. And I think it's even easier to learn, right? However, this is also a verb, which means we have to change it depending on the pronoun. So, ich would be war. Ich war. But du warst. Du warst. RCS war, just like ich. RCS war. Wir waren. Wir waren. Ihr wart. Ihr wart. And sie waren. Sie waren. And that was it. And they all mean the same thing. I was, he was, we were, and so on. There is another word that you should know. If you want to say there is or there are, like for example, there are a lot of children. In German, you say es gibt. And you use es gibt regardless of you are talking about one object or many objects. There is and there are both es gibt. However, if you want to say this in the past tense, you say es gab, which means there was or there were. Es gibt, es gab. Therefore, you can say that you only have to learn this verb in this form with this pronoun. Now, moving on from grammar, let's talk about the weather. However, in the past. Das Wetter in der Vergangenheit. das Wetter in der Vergangenheit. Let's start with some sentences. Like yesterday was cold. Gestern war kalt. Gestern war kalt. You could say, gestern ist kalt gewesen. But the easier plus more common one is gestern war kalt. The opposite would be gestern war heiß, right? Yesterday was hot. Gestern war heiß. Last summer was very hot. Letzter Sommer war sehr heiß. Letzter Sommer war sehr heiß. Letzter means last, and you add sehr to show that the weather was extremely or very hot. Sehr heiß. A similar sentence, yesterday the weather was really nice. Gestern war das Wetter sehr schön. Gestern war das Wetter sehr schön. Now, you have two possible ways to say this sentence. You could either say gestern and then add the verb, and then your subject, which is das Wetter. Or you can switch between das Wetter and gestern. So you say, das Wetter war gestern sehr schön. What does this tell us? Well, this means that in German, sometimes the sentences could be structured in another way, where the subject is not the first word, but the third word, for example. And this is okay in German. However, the verb should always be in the second place, or before your subject in this case. Gestern war das Wetter sehr schön, or das Wetter war gestern sehr schön. It rained 3 days ago. Es hat vor 3 Tagen geregnet. Es, which means it, hat vor 3 Tagen geregnet. The verb to rain in the Vergangenheit is geregnet, and it takes the verb haben. Vor means ago. Vor 3 Tagen. 3 days ago. It snowed last week. Letzte Woche hat es geschneit. Letzte Woche hat es geschneit. Again, here you can switch between letzte Woche and the subject, es. So you could either say, es hat letzte Woche geschneit, or letzte Woche hat es geschneit. So in German, it's really easy to switch between words and play with your sentences. It actually makes fun when you get used to it. It was windy last month. Es war windig letzten Monat. Es war windig, which means windy, letzten Monat. Try to switch in this sentence. And by that I mean try to say the sentence in another way. Letzten Monat war es windig. Correct. So as you can see, when you switch a sentence, usually the word you switch your subject with is something that tells you when the sentence happened. Last month, last week, today, yesterday, and so on. So you're not allowed to switch between every two words. There were many storms 2 years ago. Vor 2 Jahren gab es viele Stürme. Vor 2 Jahren gab es viele Stürme. So the verb here is es gab. There were, right? And I've switched between es and vor 2 Jahren. Therefore, I can easily also say es gab vor 2 Jahren viele Stürme, right? The weather was always nice last autumn. Das Wetter war im letzten Herbst immer schön. Das Wetter war im letzten Herbst, which means in the last autumn, immer schön. Im means in this case. It was always sunny last week. Letzte Woche war es immer sonnig. Again, we are switching, right? Letzte Woche war es immer sonnig. Or es war letzte Woche immer sonnig. It was very cloudy. Es war sehr wolkig. Es war sehr wolkig. As you can see, here you are not actually able to switch between anything because you don't have a word that tells you the time of the sentence. Es war sehr wolkig is the only way to say this sentence. The weather was mild. Das Wetter war mild. Das Wetter war mild. Again, this is the only way to say this sentence. Let's try to exercise. I have a question for you. Wie war das Wetter vor 2 Tagen? Wie war das Wetter vor 2 Tagen? You could start your answer with vor 2 Tagen. However, you have to be careful when does the verb come and when does the subject come. So, try to answer it. possible answer could be vor 2 Tagen war es kalt. First comes war and then the subject es. Nass und es hat geregnet. Vor 2 Tagen war es kalt, nass und es hat geregnet. Easy, right? Let's try it again. Wie war das Wetter im letzten Sommer? Wie war das Wetter im letzten Sommer? A possible answer could be letzten Sommer war es sehr heiß. Aber manchmal, but sometimes, manchmal means sometimes, hat es auch geregnet. But sometimes, it did also rain. So in this sentence, for example, you have manchmal, which is a word that tells us when the sentence happened. And then you have hat es. So again, you switch between es and manchmal. However, the verb hat stays put. And you already know that geregnet is going to be at the end of the sentence, no matter what. The second sentence is zum Glück, which means luckily. Zum Glück habe ich zu Hause eine Klimaanlage. Zum Glück is one of those exceptions that you could use to switch between the subject and the word. There are a couple of those, and zum Glück is one of them. And that was the end of this lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!